The Boss Hole Chronicles are brought to you by Real Good Ventures, a talent optimization firm helping organizations diagnose their most critical people and execution issues with world-class analytics. Make sure to check out all the resources in the show notes and be sure to follow us and share your feedback. Enjoy today's episode.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Boss Hole Chronicles, where we never want to waste a good opportunity to learn from a bad boss. But even more than that, we are working hard to transform boss holes or potential boss holes all over the world. I am Sara Best. I'm your co-host. And like my amazing brother-in-law, financial planner guy, Bobby Best always says, hey, hey, hey. Let me say hi to John Brower, my partner, friend, and co-host today. John, always good to be with you.
Oh, yes, Sara. It's great to be with you. And thanks for that kind introduction. And tell Bob I said hi and have a great holiday.
I'll tell him you said, hey, hey, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, John, today's topic is a quick hit. It's an important one. I think it's a recap of some really important stuff. I love your take on all of this. So, John, I will ask you to jump right in and get hopping on our topic for today.
Absolutely. Happy to do that. You know, Sara, to your point, we have talked a lot over the last 2 years about talent optimization, and our listeners have heard that term a lot. A lot of our listeners know what it is and are involved in talent optimization. But the more I thought about it, I thought, hey, how do we give our listeners even more resources and even a tool to be able to understand, okay, I love the idea of talent optimization, but how do I actually know if we're moving in the right direction to use it in our organization? So here at Real Good Ventures, we actually created a talent optimization checklist, or what we call our talent optimization audit. And I thought it would be great for us to talk about that today and help just everybody understand what's in it. And it will be in the show notes for you to go in and download the talent optimization audit checklist, so you can go back to your organizations and see, you know, exactly how are we, what is the status of TO in our organization, and how do we drive it forward even more. But I thought a great way to start out, Sara, would be just to redefine and revisit the definition of talent optimization. Would you mind sharing that with our listeners?
I would love to share that, John. I'm a big fan of this category called talent optimization, or TO, as you referred to it. TO is a 4-part organizational framework. It's 4 aptitudes inside this powerful framework that organizations can use to align their business strategy with their business results. And really, we're talking about talent strategy. Mm-hmm. If I say it in very, very simple terms, John, most of our organizations that we know and work with, and it doesn't matter the industry or sector, they have results they wish to achieve and likely have a strategy they're deploying to achieve those results. Talent optimization says, hey, you have to be focused on and aware of your talent, who's to do that work, because who you have to do that work is really, really important in terms of getting those results. So talent optimization gives us this opportunity to be very clean and clear and align our talent strategy with our business strategy. Therefore, we more successfully achieve those business results.
Perfect. That's a great definition. And one thing that everybody should know is that the framework itself is pretty agnostic when it comes to the types of tools. Obviously here at Real Good Ventures, we are strong proponents of tools like the Predictive Index and the Fearless Organization Scan, line of sight, line of sight organizational health scan, and EQI. I mean, we use a lot of diagnostics, but as long as you're using valid, reliable diagnostics, it can plug into the talent optimization framework. What was that?
Oh, there's a text message coming in. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear that?
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it was just a different kind of sound. So the 4 aptitudes of which Sara is speaking are hire, inspire, design, and diagnose. And we'll walk through each one briefly that are in the checklist in the audit form, so you can take it back and start to evaluate, are we actually doing any of this stuff? And if we're not, how on earth do we start to reorient our focus and start to apply a talent optimization strategy and a framework to our business here? So the first one is the hire aptitude. And the hire aptitude gives you the opportunity when you are applying this in your organization to hire the very best candidates every single time. In other words, best fit candidates for positions that need to be filled. And by the way, it's not just about candidates outside the organization, but it's also refitting people that are in your organization. So in the audit, we ask questions like, for example, do you invite stakeholders within the company who will work with this hired candidate to weigh in on the traits and skills that are necessary in this role? So oftentimes our talent acquisition folks and hiring and recruiting team members are finding people to fill based on a job description and perhaps just their, what we call their briefcase, just the resume and credentials. And we know that that is the worst predictor of performance. What we're talking about is getting the hiring manager involved and making sure that the hiring manager and people that are close to the role can speak into what are the traits, what are the characteristics. And in this case, we talk about behavioral wiring, cognitive wiring that are going to, with a high degree of predictability, lead them to perform and be successful in this role. So that is one. Are you getting the right stakeholders and people involved? Another quick one is, do you have a process in place to reduce hiring bias? We have been talking a lot about the need for objective data and to remove at least the human subjectivity that oftentimes will influence hiring and recruiting people for all the wrong reasons. So, again, when you use objective data like we do with PI, there is no bias associated with it. When you're looking at behavioral data, it doesn't know where they're from. It doesn't know anything about this individual. So you're looking at it objectively to see, okay, is this person a good fit for this role that we have open?
Yeah. And I think it's important to mention, John, that the predictive index as a tool does remove subjective bias. I mean, it's valid and reliable across, various and multiple languages. Mm-hmm. So it is one of the few tools that's available on the market that allows people, because it's a free choice assessment, it is acceptable per the EEOC guidelines to be used in selection because it does eliminate that bias. And for organizations to better apply tools like PI in this way, you should be surveying all candidates. You should be sending the assessment to all candidates for a job, not your top three, not after you phone screen them.
That's
because
a good point.
As soon as you touch base with a candidate, you have incorporated subjective bias. It's just how we work and how our minds work. So when you survey candidates in advance of any interaction with individuals in the organization, you have a better chance of selecting a person who's a good fit for the role, not somebody who you like or somebody whose briefcase is solid or strong. John, let me say one more thing about
Sure.
hiring with bias. In today's climate, where diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are becoming essential components of successful organizations, you need to have a tool in place that provides you that objective data, as you referred to. It's really the best place to start when it comes to eliminating our unconscious bias and decades and sometimes centuries old kind of mental models or ways of operating in organizations that we may not be even aware of. So there's
For sure. Okay, Sarah, you want to take us on to the next one?
Yes. The next aptitude, Inspire, has everything to do with unlocking or unleashing the potential of managers and their direct reports. And gosh, this whole podcast, John, is about managers, being better equipped and doing a better job of knowing and understanding and optimizing the talent that they have. So tools like what we see here in Inspire, things that we would do in this aptitude, center exclusively on that. I think first and foremost, do you train your managers? We have scores of episodes, John, where we talk about it's the manager. And our goal this year has been to reinvent the manager. We're recognizing the impact a manager has on a person's success. Do you build them up? Do you upskill them, train them, and help them build their self-awareness? Another one, do you have a process and some objective data to help you diagnose people problems?
Mm-hmm.
We always like to say, John, that in our organization, we help companies solve their business problems, which are always people problems. And it's the truth. So how do you address, well, first of all, how do you identify and how do you address people challenges that arise? Interpersonal conflicts, lack of performance, for example, and other poor leadership style, other abounding issues. And then the third one would be when we bring somebody into our organization, do we appropriately onboard them based on their needs, their unique, specific needs? And there are tools that, for example, with Predictive Index, we have a management strategy guide. We have relationship guides. There are tools that a hiring manager or supervisor can have upfront and start dialogue immediately when a person, comes on board to just ensure they're going to have a better chance at succeeding. And because that supervisor, just as a simple example, if I have somebody who has a high need for clarity, information, they're not very comfortable with ambiguity, they like to go by the book, they like to understand fully, what's expected of them. This is a person who will need a lot of contact, especially early on in their time in the role, to get the context, to get the specifics, to get the direction, to get examples and visuals of what product can look like. This is not a person who, you're going to leave them to their own to figure out how it works. So I know that sounds simple, but it's huge when it comes to, those first few hours, minutes, that we engage a person. Are we engaging them based on what we know they need? And it's not rocket science.
Not at all. And how much time could we avoid wasting by doing just that?
Yeah.
When you add somebody to a team, even before they get there, give the manager the information, help them understand the relationship, and stop wasting so much valuable time and let them start to work on that relationship early on. That's great. That is great.
And if I may, John, before you talk about what is probably my most favorite of the 4 aptitudes, I just want to say one more thing about Inspire. Whatever tools or processes you use in your organization to stay focused on the individual employee, that's what we mean by Inspire. Inspiring managers to stay engaged with individual employees, to have conversations, give feedback, use your performance management system, and let them, be equipped to let their direct reports be their number one responsibility. Wherever you can do that, I think that's what Inspire can really make possible.
And to that point, one of our standard workshops, and it is growing in popularity, is Inspire People to Perform. That is our one-day workshop that is specific to managers and supervisors to put away all the garbage and noise and really focus on you and your people. Because inspiring is really what you are, that's what you're supposed to do. It's supposed to elevate people and enable them to do things beyond what they believe they're capable of doing right now, but doing it with reliable data.
Yes.
And Sarah, you just said the next aptitude is your favorite. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit. Would you mind talking about design?
I would not mind at all. Design is about creating high-performing teams, or dream teams, as we like to call them. Design is an aptitude where you are very much on purpose about understanding who's on the team, the type of team that you have, and you're able to compare not only the type of team that you have to the work you're actually required to accomplish. I just think it's important to say that in this day and age, we are squarely in the knowledge economy, probably moving on to the next one. I don't know what that would be, but in the knowledge economy, even with AI and other things, it is all about individuals collaborating and sharing knowledge with one another to accomplish the job. I don't care what industry or sector it is. That's the way it works. So the significance of this team effectiveness is very profound. We have to have teams that are collaborative, that do share information. So do you use psychometric tools? Do you do that in your organization so that team members, can come together? I just spent time with a group yesterday. I'm doing it today with another group where individuals are looking at their strengths and their caution areas and they're being vulnerable with one another, sharing those, getting, spending time together, getting to know each other, creating rules for engagement, for dealing with conflict, for example, because conflict is an important part of a high functioning team. So do you use data to help people understand themselves and understand each other?
And just like we are able to diagnose, I mean, not only with our tools, but there are other tools out there, individual behavioral, what we call behavioral DNA, or your traits that you've had forever. We can diagnose team traits, because when you bring people together, those amazing human beings, that team has its own characteristics.
Yes.
And, as we say at Rogue Adventures, every team is perfectly designed to get the result it gets. However, are those the results we need? And how many times, Sarah, have we we've worked with a team, we diagnose what kind of team it is, but then through our discussion with them and our sessions, we realize what they're being tasked to do is completely different than what they're built to do. Yeah, that is a realization that is amazing, and at the same time very helpful, because it's prescriptive. It allows us to maybe modify the team or reorient the team, or maybe change their direction and make sure that they're working on things that they're built to do.
John, just as an example, a group I recently worked with, working in the finance function, so we did some diagnostics using PI. They are an executing team.
Okay.
And just for our listeners, disciplined, conscientious, and professional. And every time I deal with this group, that's exactly what I experience. They come in, they're always on time. They're actually very early. They sit in their seats. They have their materials printed off. They are ready. They're quiet. They're a bit reserved, but they're ready, to engage and bring their excellent thoughts and ideas and their diligence to the process. And, as a team, they have some strengths, they have some challenges. One of them would be that the challenge is that they do a lot of individual work. So they don't spend a lot of time together. One way to ensure that an executing team isn't highly separate or siloed would be to make sure they spend time together. So this executing team determined what objectives they're pursuing in the new year and how important those are. Interestingly enough, they're pursuing what we would call a cultivating strategy.
Really?
So if I put this into plain English, this team is primarily loaded with people who are diligent, disciplined, fast-paced, results-oriented, and out to get done. They want to get stuff done. They're going to do it really, really well. There's intensity. The strategies and the ideas that they're pursuing, for example, listen and serve others with empathy.
Oh, wow.
Guide others to improve collaboration. Those are in a totally different space than most of those individuals live or how they're wired.
Right.
They have one person on their team who is a cultivating kind of individual. That's a collaborator. So we talked about how this team will need to adjust and adapt. The people on their team who are more stabilizing and diligent and disciplined and steady, they can easily become more focused on the relationships versus the work. They're all really focused on the work. The people who are high intensity, fast paced, get stuff done, they're going to have a harder time. Yeah. And they might, in fact, do better to rely upon those people who are more agile when it comes to adapting to relationships and the focus on people versus the focus on the work. So rich discussion can happen when you at least look at, are we even wired to do what we said is important for us to do?
Right. And that creates that, and when you're not, that creates that tension. You feel it, the frustration. And it's like, and nobody can see this because obviously we're not on video, but yeah, what Sarah's referring to is the actual mapping. There is a visual illustration that comes out of our software where you are able to actually show them, this is where you are, this is what you're built to do, this is what you're saying you need to do, and it's at two different ends of the what we call the spectrum. But that has to be very revealing and helpful for them to understand, but it also allows them to make better decisions about moving forward.
Yes.
And
not get stuck.
Yes.
In places where teams are unaware of this kind of data, you hear things like, we need more accountability. People aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
We've talked about this and it's not getting done. Well, guess what? They're doing what they naturally are wired to do. No surprise. We're not putting emphasis on these other things.
And don't blame them for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't beat them up for that.
Don't beat them up for that. Well, good. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
that. And I will just go ahead and share the final aptitude
Thanks.
diagnose, which is near and dear to my heart. Because this is a little bit different. Hire, inspire, and design, I would say, are that's kind of our sustenance on a daily basis and working with managers and teams and organizations. Diagnose is offers a bigger picture. Diagnose talks about pinpointing and fixing issues with engagement. So this is where we are able to gather objective data about engagement within an organization. And engagement, just really quick, you've heard this from us before. Engagement we define as an individual's emotional commitment to the organization and its goals. And what we've known for years, we've talked about it on here, that disengagement is a major issue with organizations. And if you can't address it objectively, it will be pervasive in terms of suppressing your overall performance. So a couple of things on the checklist in the audit that we talk about. Do you know how your employees honestly feel about your organization, their role, their managers, and the culture? And we actually do measure that, not only overall engagement, but we look at job fit, manager fit, team fit, culture fit. How do people feel specifically about those? And we measure that data. Another one that I really like on here is that, do you have an established and regular process for identifying causes of low engagement and developing productive action plans that drive progress on the metrics in question? Now, this is a big deal because a lot of organizations do engagement assessments, or what they call the employee satisfaction surveys. There's hundreds and hundreds of examples out there. The problem with virtually all of them that I've seen is that you gather the data, but there's no clear next step other than whatever you come up with. Now, in our work, our system actually creates action plans specifically for managers that are designed to focus on engagement. So if you really want to get the bigger picture, and it's important to understand all these different levels. I mean, down to the individual level and getting the right person in the right position, but backing way up and saying, overall, how healthy, how engaged are our people relative to the organization and our mission and what we're doing? And it's not enough to say, oh, no, man, we've got a great, healthy organization. Absolutely. It's like, okay, anecdotally, you may feel that way, but let's measure that. And that's a critical part of talent optimization.
It is. John, I come across many organizations that do engagement surveys, and there's a variety of means by which they gather this important information. They're all good. The best places to work. There's scads of these tools and surveys, big ones. Big organizations create them. Smaller versions. We're just about get the data. Like whatever you're doing, make sure. And if you are getting that data, and you recognize that, hey, we've done this 2 or 3 times now, yet we haven't really demonstrated responsiveness to the information. We've looked at it. We've talked about it. I know in an organization I previously worked in, I got to sit in on the roundtable, download of the information. And at that time I was working in learning and development, and everyone kept looking to me going, could we offer training for that? Could we offer training for that? And, it's comprehensive. And it's, I guess the caution would be, if you're going to ask people what they think and what they need, then please devote the time and effort and energy to be responsive to that. Because you do that once and don't do anything with the data, you're going to lose a few hearts and minds. If you do it more than once, they'll have no confidence whatsoever in the assessment process and in
without any follow-up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
No confidence in leadership ability. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's great. That is great. Well, again, just as a reminder to everybody, please go into the show notes because there are a couple of resources. Number one, this talent optimization audit checklist is in there. Just go ahead and download it. It's just something we want to offer, and work with your teams, walk through it, make copies, and have an honest conversation. Are we doing these things? Can we check these boxes? Because if we're not, we need some help. Okay. And we need some help around talent optimization. Second thing is there's a link in there to leadwithto.com. So leadwithto.com is a free resource. You can go in there. You've heard it from us before, but you can go in there and become a certified talent optimization leader. There's no charge to that, but it's a great way to codify an understanding of talent optimization. And by the way, we're going to start doing this in our show notes. We're going to cross-reference previous episodes that also talk about talent optimization. So as you start to listen to this, go back and listen to some other episodes. We're going to begin to cross-reference episodes that link to one another, and we've got a couple on talent optimization that you'll find in the show notes.
John, just to circle back to the point you made about the free opportunity to become certified.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the last 2 years, especially, many of my colleagues and associates in the HR world have shifted positions. They've moved between organizations. There continues to be a lot of job transition.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great thing to add to your resume. And if you're considering or contemplating a move to an organization that doesn't know anything about talent optimization, you can bring this, as a powerful tool in your briefcase to share. So I think it's a good thing to add to that. One other thought too, if we go all the way back to the hire module,
mm-hmm.
It is not lost on us, John, that we continue to be in a very unique climate when it comes to employment and employee candidates and the job market in particular. This really never before experienced, people leaving, people getting laid off, not having people available to work, which is, I know, a big challenge for many of our clients. We would suggest that even if you cannot hire for the best fit for your role, using objective data allows you to understand who you're hiring and therefore make accommodations. I think we've done work with larger organizations on hourly workers or frontline employees. We don't necessarily have a job target for every hourly employee,
right?
But for team leads on the floor of the plant, for example, to better understand how to draw the best performance from each person on their team, it's simple data that can be used. So I just wanted to acknowledge that it's not a luxury that many of us have right now to find the best fit candidate or have an abundance of candidates. Sometimes it's like, we'll take any candidate, but know who you have, know who you're getting, and do your best to onboard and optimize that person based on what the data can tell you they need.
That's great, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, I really appreciate your jumping in and discussing this with me for our listeners. And
I want to say too, John, those of you who are loyal followers, thank you so much. We love your feedback. We love hearing from you. Stay tuned. If you're new to the podcast, you may want to stay plugged in and save our stream of, we drop a new episode every Tuesday. We have some phenomenal subject matter experts coming up.
That's true.
The body of work that we're tapping into is pretty incredible. So it's just exciting to be able to share that. Stay tuned. More coming.
Great reminder, Sarah. Thank you. And keep listening to the Boss Hole Chronicles. We'll see you next time. We'd like to thank our guest today on the Boss Hole Chronicles. And if you have a Boss Hole Chronicles story of your own, please email us at mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. Once again, mystory@thebossholechronicles.com. We'll see you again soon.